Good morning. I guess I would first ask everybody to find a seat, but before you do that, can we stand together and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Boardman. It's truly a pleasure to welcome each of you to our wonderful community. As I was preparing my comments this morning, trying to decide what exactly to say, I thought, you know what, it's a good morning, Boardman, but I'd like to think of it as a celebration of Boardman, because we have so much in our community to be proud of, and so many successes. Things happening right here in our community. This morning, we're going to be talking about things, good, positive things going on in the township, our excellent school system, and of course, this beautiful green oasis, Boardman Park. Our morning will then be highlighted by our keynote speaker, Mr. Jim Trussell, President of YSU. Events like this don't just happen without a great deal of cooperation and support from a lot of folks. So I want to say thank you to everybody for pitching in and making this happen. We did have some sponsors. One of the sponsors is MS Consultants, and I want to acknowledge them and thank them for their support, as always, in our endeavor. Also, one of our sponsors is First National Bank, and I believe Pete Semakopoulos, the regional president, is here and would like to say a few words. Pete?
Thank you, Tom. Good morning, everyone. Great to be with all of you today. On behalf of First National Bank and F&B Corporation, it is our privilege to be a sponsor of Good Morning Boardman this year. Boardman is a very important market in our footprint, in First National's footprint. We have 3 branches here in Boardman. The first one was opened in the 50s on Market Street. Our second location was opened in the early 80s on 224, just a little east here across the street. And about 2.5 years ago, we opened our third location in Boardman Township on Tippecanoe Road. Being one of the largest townships in Ohio, as Boardman succeeds and grows, so does the entire region and our business community. I've lived in Boardman my entire life, and I believe a successful community doesn't happen overnight. It evolves over time. It evolves with an excellent school system, a strong fire department, a dedicated police force, and thoughtful government leadership. We do have great leadership in our trustees, Mr. Costello, Mr. Moliterno, Mr. Calhoun, our administrator, Mr. Lurie, and of course our fiscal officer, Bill Light. These gentlemen have done a fabulous job guiding the township through some challenging times. First National is honored to have a business and personal relationship with Boardman. Through our bankers, many of which are in the room today, we've experienced 19 quarters of loan growth. If you do the quick math on that, that's about 5 years, and that takes us back to the beginning and the middle of the recession. There's only about 5 banks in the whole country that can say that they've had that kind of loan growth and opportunity. Not only do we try and provide financial solutions to the businesses and the consumers, but our bankers also volunteer their money, their hours and time to various organizations and nonprofits. We hope that we have made a difference here in Boardman. I believe the Boardman motto fits this area very well. It is a nice place to call home. So on behalf of First National Bank, thank you for the opportunity to sponsor this event. And I want to thank all of you in the room today for your leadership and dedication that has helped Boardman become a viable, strong community. Thank you and enjoy the program.
Thank you, Pete. And I could now throw away the first 2 pages of my comments. I have the opportunity to speak for a few moments about what's going on in Boardman, the positive things. But I want to take one moment first and acknowledge that without a team effort, the good things happening wouldn't happen. So I want to acknowledge my fellow trustee, Larry Moliterno. Not with us today is Brad Calhoun, the other trustee. He chose to go to Washington, D.C. today with 97 eighth graders. So he's on a bus right now heading to D.C. I think he made the wrong choice personally, but I'm glad he did it. We have our fiscal officer, Mr. Bill Light. And then we have a team of folks that just really are dedicated to our community, and we're so fortunate. So I would ask that all of the Boardman Township employees and department heads, please stand. I'd like to acknowledge them and give them a round of applause. We're truly blessed to have these type of committed individuals. And just to give you a feel, we've got approximately 150 employees in the township. And this is a large part of the leadership team that makes everything run so smoothly. What I thought I would do is just give a brief overview of what's going on in our different departments throughout Boardman. And I'm going to start off with our zoning department, which has just done fabulous things the last couple of years. In the past 2 years, we have demolished 18 homes in an effort to stabilize neighborhoods. Once these infrastructures are torn down, Boardman has its own land bank that works in conjunction with the Mahoning County Land Reutilization and Revitalization Corporation to help bring this property back to a useful life. So you see blighted property, let us know. Our zoning folks go out, they do what needs to be done. If the property is not able to be brought back up to standards, we'll work to demolish it and then bring that back to useful property, which means a taxpayer paying taxes and doing something with it that you don't mind living next door to. Also, in our efforts to protect the integrity of our neighborhoods, we're soon to enact legislation called the Landlord Registration Program. That is meant to make sure that all rental properties in Boardman are being properly maintained and kept to the standards that we'd all like to live in. I'd like to tell you that already is happening, but there are landlords in our community, many, many fine ones. There are some that are just in it for the money, and we're going to address that issue with this legislation and make them step up and take care of their properties. In our road department, once again, Boardman has taken the lead in successfully working with Austintown and Canfield on our joint paving program, allowing us to get a better price when we go out to bid for asphalt paving. And when I say a better price, the last 2 years, we've actually gotten a better price in the city of Youngstown on our paving costs. When the three communities get together, we've taken the lead on that the last 2 years, and that's worked very well for both our community and Austintown and Canfield. We think working together is a great idea. In the last 2 years, we've paved over 14 miles of roads. And just so you also get a feeling, we've got approximately 145 miles of road in Boardman that is our responsibility. So paving 14 miles sounds good, but that's only 10% of our roads. So if your road still needs paved, we're getting there. It's just we can only afford to do so much at a time. Without this joint effort, we couldn't do what we've been able to get accomplished. We've also continued the leaf pickup program, and for those of you who love this time of year, I do also, except for when I look out in my yard and I see the leaves, Boardman will continue the LEAF program. And we're continuing that in spite of the fact that the funds we used to receive from the Mahoning County Green Team no longer come to our way. But we've decided it's important for our community and that we're going to continue the program. Also, we've successfully worked with Elliott's Garden Center out on Western Reserve Road as a drop-off site for yard waste. And I understand that that's just been an overwhelming success. We came up with that a couple of years ago. We used to have our own compost site, and we were able to only staff it and keep it open a couple of days a week. When we made this agreement with Elliott's, they're open 7 days a week, and if you're a Boardman resident and you show your ID, you just take your stuff in and drop it off. And it has worked out extremely well for us, and it's been a money-saving idea. In the fire department this past year, we had a change in leadership. Our fire chief, George Brown, retired. We had the ability to promote one of our own, Mark Pitzer. In fact, Mark, stand up for a minute so everybody knows who you are. Mark's got a great success story. He was a fireman in Canfield, came to Boardman in 2008 when there were some problems in Boardman. Mark got laid off. Mark was so dedicated to his profession, he ended up going down in the DC area and was a fireman for several years. When the opportunity came for us to get our staffing levels back to where we were comfortable, Mark came back to Boardman and worked very hard to be the best fireman he could be. When we were looking for a new chief, we were thrilled to have the opportunity to promote from within. Mark's knowledge and enthusiasm will serve our community for many years. The fire department's been very busy keeping all of us safe. In 2013, they ran 3,755 calls for service. Through August of this year, they've already run 2,526 calls for service. It's amazing the way they are able to respond so quickly when we need them and always get there and do the job that needs to be done so professionally. In speaking of our fire department, tomorrow is the annual Fire Safety Day with our open house at our main fire station located on 224 near Southern Boulevard, and that occurs from 11 o'clock until 2 o'clock. It's a great event. It's a perfect opportunity for the public to come out and just get to meet the firemen, tour the fire station, see the equipment, and get a first-hand knowledge of what these professionals do to keep us safe. Personally speaking, it's a great event for your children and or grandchildren. I mean, they have coloring books, they have stickers, they have helmets for the kids, and it's a great event. It's from 11 to 2 tomorrow, and I hope to see many of you there because we need to support these folks and let them know we really appreciate what they do to keep us safe every day. In our police department, and I have to say nice things because the chief's sitting directly in front of me, our dispatch radio system was another joint project that we worked hand in hand with Austintown with. It's a state-of-the-art system for both police and fire departments. I guess I might mention, this was an item that was mandated by the federal government. The system had to be upgraded. They just failed to send us any money to pay for it, but they mandated it. We were really fortunate. The total cost of this project was about $1.4 million for the communities. Boardman's taxpayers paid nothing for this. We were able to use seized assets and dollars from the bad guys. And if you want to see the elected officials really smile, it's great when we're able to have this sort of an investment in our community without the burden being on the taxpayers and using, as I like to say, the bad guys' money against them. And we're really thrilled that we were able to do that. Literally no cost to our taxpayers, and our share was about $700,000. This system is so good that many communities are now looking at both Boardman and Austintown and becoming a part of our dispatch system. The police department, because of this new system, we had extra radios. The idea came up. We have placed these radios in possible high-risk locations. Every school in Boardman has a radio that is directly tied into our dispatch unit. The Wall, Boardman Park. In the event of an emergency at any of these locations, there would be direct and immediate communication. Why that's so important is in the event of something happening at one of our schools, every school student, every teacher is going to take their cell phone out and dial 911. Our dispatchers would be absolutely overwhelmed. With the radio, they have direct communication to dispatch. They can say exactly what's going on, and the proper resources can immediately be dispatched. Great idea. I think we're one of the first communities in the area to be doing this type of a project, and we want to continue to do that. I know we're working to try to put these radios also in all of the hospitals here locally. I just think it's a great idea and a great use of resources. So we're so proud of that. Continuing to be collaborative. This past year, this past summer, we had several meetings with the school system, and we were able to develop where the Boardman High School always had a reserve officer on premises during the school year. We were able to actually work, we now have a Boardman Township police officer for the first time actually at the high school. Officer Paul Polis went through an interview process with both the township and the schools, and he now is at the high school on a daily basis. And from what I understand, everybody's very happy with how that has worked out, and it has provided an extra layer of security and communication for our high school. And we all want our kids safe for sure. This past year, we also had the ability to install a 24-hour prescription drop-off box that is in our police department. This was done with a coordinated effort with the Ohio Attorney General's office. And what it is it allows drugs to be properly disposed of. And by properly disposed of, we all have drugs around our house that are out of date, out of use, not supposed to flush them down the toilet anymore. Drop them off here, they get properly disposed of. They also do become an attractive nuisance to people who may have substance issues that would want to take those and misuse them. So it's there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You buzz, you get in. It's like a mailbox. You open it up, drop your stuff in. It's secure, and then they're properly disposed of. We're real thrilled with that. In general, hopefully everybody has seen our new Welcome to Boardman signs that have gone up this year. And actually, we've done that with almost no cost to the taxpayers. Our road department has stepped up. We've got some people over there that are extremely capable, and they have been able to place these signs and get these signs up and operational, and it just makes you good when you come into our community. We have a brand new website that has been brought online this year, and the intent is to keep the public updated. So if you got information requests, you can go right to our website. The vast majority of the questions could be answered right there. So I guess, as I stated in my opening remarks, we have a great deal to be proud of. And I'd like to say once again, welcome to Boardman, the Valley's destination. Thank you. Now to give us an update on what's going on in the Boardman school system, Mr. Tim Saxton. Tim?
Good morning, everybody. Before I begin, I'd like to introduce some people from the Boardman schools. First of all, we have our school board president, Kim Poma, here. Somewhere. Kim's over there. Vice President, Fred Davis. Board member, Vicki Davis. And high school principal, Jared Cardillo. I am Tim Saxton. I'm the Director of Operations for the Boardman schools. I'm an '84 Boardman graduate. I have a daughter, Anna, who's a junior at Boardman High School, and I have twin girls, Ashley and Alicia, who are 8th graders at Boardman Center Middle School. Now let me tell you how great the Boardman schools are. They were up at 5:45 this morning for school. Now if you have 8th graders, do you have an 8th grader that was up at 5:45 this morning for school? I mean, that's how excited they were. They are 2 of the 97 kids on that bus to Washington, D.C. So my prayers go out to Mr. Calhoun. But I'm also married for 20 years to Gina. She's a Western PA transplant. Again, this is my 13th year with the Boardman schools. I spent 11 years as Boardman High School principal, and I'm now in my 2nd year as the Director of Operations. My office is in Boardman Center Middle School, right across the street from the mall. And as I work, you can hear the traffic on Market Street, but one of the things that I hear is the construction of that new jewelry store. I think it's called Jared. And I know some of the ladies are trying to work, and you hear those construction vehicles back up and they make that beeping sound. And sometimes they can get a little annoyed. But I tell you what, for me, I love it. Because when I drive around Boardman and I see the growth and I see the building, to me, being a Boardman guy, that is so exciting. So how can I tie that into the schools? Just to give you a quick snapshot, what I want to do is talk about what are we building in the Boardman schools. Well, I got to start with the number one thing. If you've picked up a paper, or if you sit here and talk to me long enough, the word stadium is going to come out of my mouth. Boardman has tackled finally finishing their stadium on the campus of Boardman High School. It's a 3-phase project. Phase 1 is done. We've put the turf down. We opened that turf up in the first week of September. It was a great day. It rained. There was about 100 people there for that opening. It was a great day. Because it rained. Why was it a great day? Because we played 5 games in a row in rainy weather without a puddle. without a problem. 5 sporting events around. We could never do that at the old stadium. After 2, it would have been a mess, and we'd have to move them somewhere else. That's one of the reasons why we built that. Phase 2, we want to get the bleachers in there. We have some. It's not enough. We want to start hosting varsity football games there. So in the fall of 2015, we plan on hosting our first varsity football game there. And then phase 3, in the fall of 2016, to finish the other amenities. Now, some people would say, why are you building a stadium? That's a great question. Just give you a couple quick reasons. One, I heard it said that in the schools, your stadium is your front porch of your house. People may not come in your house. You may have someone knock on the door or pick something up or drop something off. But a lot of times they judge your house by how your front porch is. And I know I'm speaking to business owners, so for you guys, it'd be your storefront. If your storefront isn't attractive, people may not come in your business. Now, they may have nothing to do with your quality of service or quality of product, but they're making a quick judgment on you. We have anywhere from 7,000, 10,000 people visit our stadium on a Friday night, and they're taking a look at that stadium, and they're wondering, what's up with the Boardman schools? That's one reason. Not probably the strongest reason, but that's one of the reasons why we want to get that done. The second reason, in 1969, we built the brand new high school. They did not have enough money to put an auditorium there. So 31 years later, the leaders of Boardman schools got a fundraiser together and put the auditorium in. If you've ever been in it, it's top notch, fantastic, one of the finest in the area, if not the state, if not the nation, for a high school. If you look at the original diagrams from 1969, right where we're building the stadium, the sketches said proposed high school football stadium. So 45 years later, we're finally finishing the dreams of leaders from back in the 60s of the Boardman local schools. Finally, I would say in the Mahoning Valley, I don't know if you've ever been out in the Cleveland area or outside of Ohio, there's something unique about a Friday night in Mahoning Valley. It's Friday night football, and the stadium's not about football, but it attracts 7,000 to 10,000 people. And I don't know about you, but if you think about Boardman, where else do you get 7,000 to 10,000 people on a given day or a given event? We have some Oktoberfest, we have some top-notch parades, but 5-6 times in the fall, we're bringing in 7,000 to 10,000 people. So we want to make sure this is a community event. This is about fellowship of students, fellowship of our community members, and fellowship of our businesses. So I ask you, and this is not one of those condo sales pitches, but if you want to know more about our stadium, take a look at this brochure, because we need the help of businesses, and we especially want the help of Boardman businesses, because we want to build this together. Because I strongly believe we're not building a stadium, we truly are building Boardman. What else are we building? Besides facilities, let's talk about a program. Last year I spoke at this and we talked about this program called AP, which is Advanced Placement. Advanced Placement courses are specially designed and certified courses in which students, once they've taken the course, take an end of the course exam called an AP test, and if they score a certain amount on it, and it goes anywhere from 1 to 5, they can get college credit. Since we met last year, Boardman was recognized by the College Board as an AP program on the district honor roll. And then since then, we have these report cards. The data came out. Boardman not only has one of the highest number of kids taking the AP test, which can, in some places can lead to saturation because they want kids to take it, but doesn't necessarily mean they're doing well. But Boardman, in a 3-county area, had the highest percent of students earning a passing score. So not only are we bringing more kids to the AP program, we're also we are the most successful high school in 3 counties in getting those kids to achieve on that program. Finally, the last thing, and probably the most important thing when you have schools, it's not bricks and mortar, it's not curriculum, it's people. And what are we doing to build people? Our true wealth is our students. And last fall, probably was faced with one of the most toughest things to deal with, and that was the death of a student, drug-related. It rocked our school. It rocked our community. We had a decision to make. How are we going to react? People wanted answers. Well, you have a choice. When you're faced with adversity, you have a choice. You can either become bitter or you can become better. And Boardman said, you know what? We said yes to better. So we started brainstorming. What can we do? Now, when most of us went to high school, what was the traditional program? We'll do this a little interactive. What was the traditional program for drug intervention? You got it. That was just a trick, so I can turn that on. For years, we've been saying, just say no, scared straight. We took a different approach. When you say just say no, you're only giving them half the equation. Okay, I'll say no, but what do I say yes to? So under the leadership of Principal Jared Cardillo, Assistant Principal Cynthia Fernback, they invented this concept called Yes Fest. And Yes Fest was born. What is Yes Fest? We don't tell students not to say no. We give them choices and we give them options what to say yes to. Yes Fest has two parts. Students participate in a 60-minute assembly in which they hear an impactful story about drug-related death and then a transitional speaker about how you can get from that point to opportunities to serve beyond yourself. We believe success and happiness is not serving yourself. It's the opposite of selfishness. You have to reach out to others. You have to go beyond yourself. So after that 60-minute assembly, we take the students and we take them down into the gymnasium, where we had this year over 40-some different community service groups and volunteer groups in which they can interact with, sign up with, and become a part of, and learn how to volunteer, and learn how to say yes to different activities that didn't make them look inside, but to help others. That was the power of Yes Fest. There's a lot of power in the word yes. There's a lot of power when you hear the word yes said to you, and there's a lot of power when you say yes to somebody else. It can take a frown to a smile. It can change a student's life. It can change the culture of a school. And what I want to show you is what happens when you have some educators and you have some students say yes.
Bring your tithe and bring your shame. Bring your guilt and bring your pain. Don't you know that's not your name? You will always be much more to me. And every day I wrestle with the voices that keep telling me I'm not right. But that's alright, 'cause I hear a voice and it calls me every day. When others say I'll never be enough. And greater is the one living inside of me than he who is living in the world. In the world. In the world. And greater is the one living inside of me than he who is living in the world. Bring your doubts and bring your fears. Bring your hurt and bring your tears. There'll be no condemnation here. You are holy, righteous, and redeemed. And every time I fall, there'll be those who will call me a mistake. Well, that's okay, 'cause I hear a voice and he calls me every day. When others say I'll never be enough. And greater is the one living inside of me than he who is living in the world. In the world. In the world. And greater is the one living inside of me than
To me, that's the power of yes. Like I said, it can change people's lives. It can change a frown to a smile. It can change the culture of a school. Now, Boardman is a great community. It's only getting better, and that's the exciting part. It truly is a blessing to live here. And am I done? Yes.
Continuing with the many successes in Boardman, somehow, in spite of all the commerce and the wonderful things going on in our community, we have this jewel right in the middle of our community called Boardman Park. Dan Slagle is going to talk about that. And Dan, in looking at your resume, there must not have been child labor laws because you went to work for the park in 1972. So there couldn't have been child labor laws back then, but you've been here. Please tell us some of the wonderful things going on in Boardman Park. Dan Slagle.
1972, that's a long time ago, Tom. And I don't know about child labor laws back then. I am a 1969 graduate of Boardman High School, the last class to graduate from the old high school. So it gives you a good idea how old I am. But anyhow, yeah, it is a pleasure. And on behalf of the park board and our staff, we are really honored to host this community breakfast. In fact, I'd like to introduce, the park is governed by 3 park commissioners who are volunteers and who are also appointed by the Boardman Township trustees. And today, this morning, we have with us Trent Kaler. Trent? And 2 other commissioners, we have Josh Zarlinga and Joyce Mistovich, who couldn't be with us this morning. So I would also like to take the opportunity to introduce some of our staff here, those individuals that are dedicated and work very hard to make Boardman Park what it is. And this morning we have Angela Davis, we have Marianne Nicholas, we have Karen McCollum, that's right. She's our rec director, and I'm sure most of you know Karen, does a wonderful job. And supervisors Jim Ferret and Warren Gratz. Thank you. So to get started, I'd like to turn your attention to the screen. I do have several slides, and I know we're up against the clock, and I'll try my best to cover all the information and allow Mr. Tressel his due time. But first, I'm obligated to give you notice, beware. About a week ago, an individual, unnamed, submitted this photograph to the park office. Now, supposedly this photograph was taken back along back in a wooded area of the park, along one of our trails, and I'm not really sure what it's all about, but it is a character, and I just have to give you notice that if you're back there, please beware. Or maybe it's somehow related to our upcoming Halloween events over the next 3 weekends here at the park. So take it for what it is, and I've given you notice about that. That is our mission statement, which was adopted by the park board back in 1992, along with a master plan, the first ever master plan for the park, which from that plan evolved a diverse footprint of recreational facilities and programs. And as you can see, those are just some examples of what we have to offer here at Boardman Township Park. This is the footprint of the park. Geographically, Boardman Township Park starts at Route 224 and travels south all the way to Wood Avenue, which is a paper street, about 1 block north of Maple Avenue. For our purposes, Boardman Park is divided into 2 areas. One is 60 areas where all of our recreational facilities are located. And then we have 167 acres of natural habitat. Two important points about that. Number one, within the 60 acres, we do offer a diversity of facilities that are in close proximity to each other. And it makes it very convenient for our visitors. Quite often we hear from our visitors how much they appreciate the ability to reserve a pavilion for a family reunion and only have to walk a short distance to a playground or a baseball field or whatever, as opposed to some recreational areas where you're located in one area for your family event and then you either have to drive in a car to go to a ball field or some other facility, or walk a very long way. So we believe that this, congested at times, but yet I think people appreciate the convenience that we offer here. And then secondly, according to the national standards, Boardman Township Park is classified as a community park. And there's a lot that goes into that classification, service area, size of the park, etc. But in most cases, Boardman Park is an exception to that based on most community parks, whether it's national or statewide, are completely developed with recreational facilities. In our case, we have 167 acres that are natural habitat and preserved, and yet we still meet the national standards as a community park. West Quadrant, which was developed in 1997. Back in 1997, Boardman Park was becoming more and more popular. There was an ongoing increase for additional recreational facilities. Based on the footprint of the park back in 1997, we only had one choice, and that was to expand the park, the recreational facilities, into the natural area of the park. Fortunately, in talking to a local developer, I learned that Ohio Edison, given the right circumstances, was receptive to selling right-of-way transmission real estate. So working with the real estate division of Ohio Edison, the park was able to purchase 27 acres of Ohio Edison right-of-way, generally running from the south boundary of the old Boardman Supply Company all the way to Wood Avenue. And after this purchase of the 27 acres led to the development of what we call the West Quadrant development, which includes the Masters Pavilion, the ADA Playground, LaRussia Bocce Pavilion, a 300-car parking lot that we desperately needed, and Pawstown Dog Park. Talk about trails. Trails are important. Trails connect people with places, especially recreational areas and schools. And if you can see listed there are the benefits of trails. In 2010, the park completed what is called the North Trail. The North Trail travels from the Bicentennial Rock at the north end of the park all the way down to the community center. It's a paved ADA accessible trail. It provides safe environment for walkers and joggers. Before the completion of the North Trail, all our walkers and joggers had to walk and jog on the road, and obviously were subjected to motor vehicle traffic. So the North Trail is something that they now appreciate, and ever since the completion of the North Trail, we've seen a dramatic increase in the number of walkers, joggers, especially mothers and strollers, and people confined to wheelchairs. And you can see in the benefits of trails, that's one of the benefits, is providing access for people with disabilities, and our North Trail satisfies that need. South Trail is part of our master plan. The South Trail travels from Boardman Township Park parallel to the right-of-way, the Sunoco pipeline easement, all the way to the Field of Dreams. There is also, on paper, a trail that would follow the Dominion right-of-way from Southern Boulevard to Market Street and via a bike lane to Nysonger Drive, thereby connecting the park with the Boardman High School campus. It's on paper, and we think it's doable. There's some obstacles that have to be overcome. But in lieu of the South Trail, as part of our master plan, is the conversion of the YNS Railroad Corridor into a recreational greenway that would travel throughout Boardman Township. And next slide, we'll see what role the YNS corridor plays in the big picture. The trail that travels from Lake Erie to the Ohio River, and you can see on the slide there what that is all about. Some of these are completed. If you read the little key down there, some are on paper and some are under construction. But the YNS connector is highlighted in red, and you can see that, and they refer to it as a trail link, but I call it a connector, travels from Columbiana County up to the city of Youngstown, and via the Mahoning River corridor would ultimately connect with the Great Ohio. The important thing to note is that the YNS connector travels through areas that are more densely populated than the Great Ohio does, which travels mostly through countrysides and rural communities. So it's an important part of the Great Ohio. It's going to make the Great Ohio more accessible to a greater population, and someday, we hope, the YNS would be converted to a recreational greenway. What Boardman Park is today, we do offer a diversity of facilities. We do serve a lot of people, over 400,000 people a year, and we do appreciate very much those people that use the park and take advantage of all the benefits we have to offer. 2013 attendance, over 468,000 people visited the park, which is just about a 13% increase over 2012. We divide our visitors into 4 different categories. The first 3 are listed on this slide, and you can read down through. We have casual visitors, we have people that come out for our programs and events, and we have those people that use our reservable facilities. The 4th category, we refer to it as special events. And those are events, fundraising, primarily events by nonprofit organizations. And you can see I've listed several of those on the screen. It is part of our mission to work with these organizations, be the host, in order for them to pursue their mission with their organization and ultimately benefit the overall community. In 2011, the National Recreation and Park Association started a national survey, and we participated. That survey is ongoing and constantly updated. So what you're looking at now is the results from 2013. The survey is divided into 3 demographic groups or categories, and you can read on the screen how Boardman Park fills in with those 3 different demographic groups. So what I have now is just some of the results from the survey. And number of full-time employees based on budget size, the national number is 26, Boardman Park is at 11. Number of part-time employees based on budget size, 105 is the national number, Boardman Park's at 15. There's a picture of some of our diligent, hardworking grounds crew. And regarding program, attendance per full-time staff, and you can read the numbers there, but I do have to make a note that in this survey, they were asking for full-time employees that were dedicated to programming. Well, in our case, we only have 1 person dedicated to programming, and I forget her name. Oh, Karen, that's right, Karen. But for the sake of playing with the survey, I factored in all our full-time employees. And then the attendance number for parks in the 250 acre or less, and you can look at those numbers. Operating expense per acre based on budget size, and that's the national number, and that's our number. Expense per acre of park line based on size of the park. That's the national number, that's our number. Acres of parkland maintained based on full-time employees, based on budget size, that's the number. And another result there, national number and our number. Now, it's considering all parks with an attendance of 500,000 or less. Number of park sites, the national number is 45, and obviously Boardman Park is one. Total number of acres, parks that serve 500,000 or less, 778, we're at 227. Total number of full-time employees, national number is 65, we're at 11. And we believe that these survey results clearly indicate that Boardman Township Park delivers recreational services in an effective and efficient manner. And this is our tax levy history, and I know time is running short, but basically, Boardman Township Park in 1948 started with a 1 mil levy, and today we continue to operate 66 years later on the equivalent of a 1 mil levy. We have 2 voted levies and 1/10 of a mil inside, non-voted, that generates about 60% of our annual income. The owner of a $100,000 home in Boardman contributes about 9 cents a day to support the mission of the park. And while operating on a 1 mil levy, the size of the park has tripled since 1947. For those of you who don't know, the park started in 47 with 72 acres. In 1992, the master plan, we have completed 21 major projects with a value of over $6 million. And most importantly, 80% of the funding for those $6 million worth of improvements has been via private donations and government grants. And Mr. Saxon talked about community built. We truly believe that what Boardman Park is today is the result of the community and their generosity and continued support of Boardman Township Park. Oh, wait a minute, we got to look at that. Thank you. And I need to give credit where credit is due. That photograph was taken by John Darnell a long time ago. Thank you. I'll shut it down. Okay.
Thank you, Dan. And of course, the highlight of today, not that all these wonderful things going on in Boardman aren't great, but have the opportunity to introduce the Youngstown State University president, Mr. Jim Tressel. Mr. President, on behalf of Boardman Township, thank you for coming home to the Mahoning Valley.
I'm a little concerned. They told me that everyone had to be in their cars by 8:45, and it's 10 of 9, so somehow I got to figure out how not to use 4 minutes. But it was exciting. It was exciting to see the Boardman TV people here. We were just talking earlier. I remember when Alan Butcher, many of you remember Alan Butcher, started that program in about 1995. One of his camera folks was my son Zach, was behind the camera. It was actually in the middle school is where it started. And so to see that it's still vibrant and going and see 2 of our great students here, it's great. And, you know, make sure you get this side. It's my better side, okay? All right, but turn that camera off. That's not my good side. But anyway. But, anytime your students are involved in things, it's wonderful. And Tim, I don't know, how many did we have in our senior class at Boardman last year? About 390. I think about 120 of them came to YSU. So if you think about the importance of Boardman High School to our enterprise, it's extraordinary. And I think if you look from the opposite direction, how important YSU is to the needs of our students in the region, it's extraordinary. And so it's so much fun to be back here. My kids all graduated from Boardman High School, and they had tremendous teachers, tremendous experiences, the broad range of things that they could be involved in. What was the shop teacher's name? Mr. Haig. My son ended up making a 700 and some pound oak pool table for me. And I told him that really wasn't for me. Someday he's taking it. And I'm proud to announce, he was a 98 graduate of Boardman, I'm proud to announce that finally this past summer, I got that pool table out of my house. I had dragged it around to about 5 different places at 700 or 800 pounds, but the music programs, the athletic programs, obviously the great academics, this is an extraordinary community, and I won't break out my PowerPoint because there's a lot of other things we could continue to talk about as to why this is such a great place, and to have gems like the Boardman Park and the Mill Creek Park and all the things we have around here, it's extraordinary. And we're fortunate, and it's great to be here with you this morning. It's great to be back in the Valley. What's been done in the last 14 years while we were gone is extraordinary. And Tom Humphreys is here today, and Tom, you were planning on speaking too? You get -2 minutes. But anyway, what he's done and his staff and all the people who have been behind the regional development in this area, it's extraordinary what's been done. And if you haven't been gone at all, you might not even appreciate what's happened. But if you had the opportunity to be gone for 14 years and then back, I applaud you for many, many of the things that have gone on in this community. They assigned me the topic of leadership, and I think it's one of the most misunderstood words or phrases that there is. Because so often, leadership is considered, well, what's my rank? What's my position? Am I the principal? Am I the operations director? Am I the activities director? Am I, what's my rank? What's my title? And that's not what leadership is. Leadership is the action that you take to serve others. That's what leadership is. I think we've lost a little bit of the true definition of leadership by confusing ourselves sometimes that it's a rank or a position. Leadership is the action that you take to serve others for the greater good. It was interesting listening to all the great things that are going on, and I used to sit in a different world, and I'd sit and hear my defense talk about, we ranked here in the nation, and we did this and that, and then I'd listen to the offense talk about, here's how many, all the data points and all that stuff, and then I hear the special teams talk and all that. But at the end of the day, were we successful as a team? I mean, that's what it's about. It's not where we rank in these various areas. It's did the things that we fell in love with and thought were the most important things in the world, how did that affect the overall? Tom and I were just talking at breakfast this morning. The regions that are successful are the regions that have great individual pockets, like a great Boardman and a great Austintown and a great Poland and a great Canfield and a great South Range and a great this and that, but they're the regions that everyone rises. That's the regions in the nation. If you study it, there's a great book if you really want to talk about what can we do as a region to make sure that we serve, we lead. There's a book called Just Growth, and it's a book written by 2 college professors that have studied regions all over the world, and they found out what's the data, how come these regions are flourishing, and these regions are struggling. And the most indicative data in that book clearly points to the fact that everyone has to be doing well for a region to do well. We individually, it can't be just YSU's doing well and the rest of the folks aren't, or Boardman's doing well and some of the others aren't. If you look at the regions right now, Oklahoma City, Salt Lake City, Jacksonville, Nashville, Kansas City, Columbus, all of the groups are serving one another. And so to me, when I was assigned the topic of leadership, to me that's the most exciting topic there possibly is. Growing up, the greatest leader in my life was my mom. She didn't have any rank other than mom. But every morning she woke up and it was all about who she was going to serve. While we were growing up, it was us. Well, then when we were on our own, you know how when the kids get a little older, they don't have time for their parents. They're involved in all the other things. So then she moved on to the PTA or to the Booster Club or to the Historical Society or to the college or to the food bank or to the whatever. Because that's what leadership is all about, is serving others. She didn't have any title, but she was the greatest leader I've ever been around. And so to me, that's the challenge. We've got to figure out at YSU, what is it that we can do to be as good as we can and to be ranked the best we can. But what's most important is what is it that we can do to serve this region best. That's what's most important. And so that's exciting, and you guys do a tremendous job, and you work extremely hard on becoming the best you can be and making sure that you're reaching your tentacles, 468,000 visitors or something. Well, they didn't all live in Boardman. You know, so you're making a difference and so forth. But what we've got to constantly challenge ourselves to do is this. If we want to really thrive as a region, we've got to constantly be thinking about what is it that we can do so everyone rises. Because we can't be a great team if just the defense is good. We might lead the league in defense, but we were 3-8. Who cares if we led the league in defense? That's not what it's about. It's about how can we serve each other. So I love to challenge my guys when they'd come up and talk about their data points and all that and so forth. Have another category. What is it that you did that helped the other guys? I remember one YSU team that we had here in, I guess it was an Ohio State team we had in 2003 that our defense was ranked really high in the nation. And when they were talking a little bit about their postseason summary and all that kind of thing, they led with this. They said, our punt team dropped 79 punts inside the 20-yard line so that our opponents had more than 80 yards to go for a touchdown. They led the nation in that punt. And if it weren't for them, there's no way we would have been the top defensive team in the nation. And oh, by the way, that year our offense didn't turn the ball over hardly at all. In fact, turned it over once inside the 50, so we as a defense only had to start once with the opponents having less than 50 yards to go. That's why we were a great defense. And so that's what we have to challenge ourselves as leaders. So we have to help one another grow, understand where we can make a difference, and be proud where we helped the others grow. And thank goodness we have 120 Boardman kids as freshmen at YSU. They're some of the best leaders we have. I mean, I've been on campus, I've met thousands of kids. And the kids I meet from Boardman are the ones that are involved in activities. They're involved in leadership. They're involved in serving others. They're doing things in the community. They're in the city. They're all over the place. So thank you for sending us those great leaders. We couldn't do without them. Last thing. People ask me often, what keeps you up at night? And I'll be honest with you, it's student debt. Because you think about what affects the greater whole. There's $1.2 trillion worth of student debt in this country. $1.2 trillion. Student debt cannot be written off. It's not like you can go to the bankruptcy court and say, hey, you know what, this wasn't a good idea, and I'm going to pay 10 cents on the dollar back. It lasts forever. And here's what student debt does, and that's why I think people are so smart when they make economic decisions about where they attend school and so forth, and that's why I think those 120 that come to YSU are pretty smart, is because you know the biggest thing that affects the individual when they get some debt as they leave school? Their willingness to be innovative and entrepreneurial. Because they leave school, and the first thing they get in the mail is from Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, and it's, hey, by the way, you're out of school, you have to start paying this debt. And now all of a sudden, they say, oh, man, I got to take this, I better take this job because I got to start paying my debt. We've got to work extremely hard to make sure our kids leave YSU with as little debt as they can so that when they go out, they don't have that anchor and they can really think big. They can really be innovative, entrepreneurial, stick their neck out a little bit because, you know, they're not bound by that. So we're going to work extremely hard on that. We appreciate all that you do. That's impressive. I didn't know we had all those trails. Is that furry guy really out there?
I don't know.
You don't know? But it's wonderful being back. It's great being in this community. You raised my kids, and I appreciate that, and we're going to work hard to make sure that all of us can serve one another because Tom Humphreys has this passion that this entire region becomes extraordinary. And that's a great goal. Thanks so much. God bless.
Those are words that we all need to take back and think about today, how we can work together as leaders of our community to grow our community. And our community isn't just Boardman. So thank you so much, Jim. Tom Humphreys from the Chamber is going to conclude our meeting and give us a few words.
Thank you. I learned a long time ago, after you follow a good program and great speakers and a great message, the best thing I can do is be short. So I'll try to not, I can't make up the 2 minutes, but I do have a couple things I wanted to share with you. When Tom Costello, Trustee Costello, started talking today, he talked about being positive, celebrating, not challenging, but celebrating, and then success and accomplishments. And President Tressel just closed it with leadership. But we wouldn't be here today if it were not for all of you and your leadership. And I don't care if it's the park or the schools and the achievements that you've done, or the police department or the fire department or the city workers or township workers. It takes a team to get there, and that's, I believe, what President Tressel had to say. Thinking back, we've spent a lot of time as a regional chamber talking about education. And I do want to compliment the Board of Education and Boardman, its administration, for your accomplishments. Because one of the top 3 things that we hear from prospective companies that want to move in the area is, where do our schools stand? How many school districts we have, which ones are our best, and it's really a great pride to be able to show off the Boardman area. The theater that you talked about, the school itself, the attitude within those buildings is remarkable, and if you consider the size of the school and how fast it's grown, you've done a really great job, and to see the excellence in academics come out of there is extremely important. So when we do bring companies here, they do, one of the top 3 things they ask is about schools, and I guarantee you most of those people will only move into excellent school districts. I've taken some of those studies where we've brought companies in here, and then I went back and talked to the employers, the leadership that moved here, and honestly, I cannot tell you one person that wasn't their first thing on their mind. And every single person that I've talked to that moved in here goes into an excellent school district. So it's so critical to our process. So I really do want to applaud you and thank you for the job you're doing. Unfortunately, I like to try to end on a positive note, nice sunny day, Friday, but unfortunately, it's a little overcast, and I would encourage you to get to your car before it rains. So God bless you all. Thank you for coming this morning, and thank you, Boardman, for a great update today. Thank you.